It's been a challenging year for wine producers, and not just because of the pandemic. Vineyard operators have dealt with more than one killing frost during the spring and more rain than usual during the growing season. But Virginia vintners are resilient, and the last thing they're going to do is whine about it. 2020 has been a challenge on so many fronts, and Virginia wine producers are feeling it just like the rest of us. Problems associated with the pandemic are obvious. Wineries, along with just about every other business, were closed to the public earlier this year. But in many ways, the weather has been an even bigger hurdle.
A lot of wineries lost between 20 and 40% of their crop because of the frost.
According to the Virginia Wine Board, there were 7 frost incidents scattered around the state this spring.
We had 4 separate frost issues, and unfortunately they were spaced out enough where they really did the maximum damage. So for us here on site, we lost most of our grape production.
It's also been an incredibly wet growing season, but the frost early on made it hard to even get started.
Well, the frost actually kills your production. So, the rain and the lack of rain are factors when you actually have grapes and you have a viable crop. The frost actually keeps you from having a crop at all.
Which doesn't mean they don't have a lot of grapes to produce next year's wine, particularly white grapes. Winemakers work with the previous year's crop to produce the current year's vintage. White says they won't feel the loss of production for the red wines for a few more years. The vineyards that managed to raise usable grapes this year will be able to charge a premium.
I expect that the contract price is going to go up, which is going to push an additional burden on the business.
Wineries usually compete against each other for customers and grapes, but during 2020 they found ways to put that aside.
All the wineries in Virginia have been working together. We've been having lots of meetings, and we've just been trying to do a really good job of making sure that our employees stay safe, our customers stay safe.
Many wineries are promoting agritourism opportunities to help offset the loss of income from lower production. After all, there are few things more relaxing than visiting a winery in autumn. Winery owners want people to know there are plenty of indoor and outdoor spaces available to have a safe day trip.
The guidelines have changed a lot since the original shutdown. We've created a very safe environment. We are going above and beyond all the CDC guidelines. I know many wineries that are doing the same thing. Obviously, they want to take their own health conditions into account, before they come out. But this is perfectly safe. It's just as safe as going to a Virginia ABC store.
Virginia has 42,774 square miles dedicated to wine production, with 312 wineries in the Commonwealth. While many consumers still think of California when it comes to premier American wines, America's oldest wine grape, the Norton, hails from Virginia. In colonial times, winemaking wasn't just encouraged, it was mandated by law. 12 years after the Jamestown settlement was established, the Virginia House of Burgesses passed Act 12, requiring each male colonist to plant and tend to at least 10 grapevines. And in 1773, the Virginia Wine Company, consisting of, among others, Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and George Mason, had a 2,000-acre vineyard near Monticello in Albemarle County. There may not have been enough grapes this year, but there's still plenty of work to be done to keep a vineyard producing.
You have no fruit, but you have just as much labor in the vineyard because the grapes wants to put all of their energy and effort, instead of ripening grape berries themselves, they're instead putting all the effort into the vines. So the vines are growing aggressively and more out of control than they had been if they had fruit hanging. So it takes just as much work, if not more, to basically keep that vineyard in check and healthy this year, so that next year, because everybody's looking forward to 2021, it will be much better and will be healthier. If we let it go out of control, they would be a little stressed next year in terms of the fruit production.
Grapes need a high natural sugar content to develop flavor. A rainy summer in Virginia has washed away hopes for a stellar season, but winemakers are still hoping for a good vintage from this year. Virginia wine sales are down 12.8% for January through June of this year compared to the same time last year. Winemakers are hoping this fall's wine celebrations can help make up some lost ground.
12.8%, it could have been so much worse. We're actually thankful that it wasn't worse. And then because wineries have a lot of open spaces, And people are really, after they've been stuck in their houses for a long time, they're looking for things to do, and wineries are an excellent alternative to get out of your house and go someplace where it's safe.
Virginia's wine producers are ready to move on from 2020 and hoping for a rebound in 2021. That's a sentiment we can all raise a glass to. In Spotsylvania County, I'm Burke Moeller reporting.